more in the final 20 minutes of that game against New Zealand. And the TMO is Graham Hughes on the far left. Experienced man he is. So another farewell for Paul O'Connell, this time from Dublin in green. Ireland and Wales' final 31-man squads will be selected over the weekend and named next week. This is a critical run-out. First touch for Keith Earls, and here is Johnny Sexton, such an important player to this Irish team through the World Cup, is Sexton. They pray that he stays fit and fresh and lively, and he looked lively there. And now it's Rob Kearney for brother Dave on the chase. And again, a big day for Dave Kearney, his last start for Ireland in that decisive game against France that won the Six Nations in 2014.
Well, Ireland got outside the Wales defence very easily then, far too easily. That wrap-around pass from Johnny Sexton, how often have you seen that in the green jersey of Ireland? And that was far too easy, exposed Bradley Davies on the outside of that defensive line.
Yeah, and I think the key for both sides is 5 guys starting the first game for Ireland, 12 for Wales. There's a lot of guys first game up, and that little bit of rust, Bradley Davies just coming in there.
Good opening line out there for Ireland, utilising Jordy Murphy at the front of the line out. And in comes Richard Strauss, a starter against Wales in Cardiff, as was Jack McGrath, so 2 of the front row starting again from that game at the Millennium. Dave Kearney has made a bright start there with that carry. Now Nathan White, no Mike Ross today, the hardy perennial, under the reign of Joe Schmidt. Johnny Sexton, little driving kick into the corner for Keith Earls. We saw some magic against Scotland, similar type of kick when Ian Madigan nailed Luke Fitzgerald.
Yeah, interesting mix there from Ireland. First of all, a couple of forwards to drive in, pull defenders in, create the width and space on the outside, and that wide kick then from Sexton, nearly finding Earls in the corner. Good intensity from Ireland at the start of this game.
So Ken Owens, and he finds Bradley Davies, who was in the World Cup squad in 2011. Now with Wasps, the former Cardiff man. And a big day for Bradley Davies, you feel. Can he make his way into the squad ahead of maybe Jake Ball, taken by Keith Earls?
To a certain extent, for these respective sides, it's not about the opposition, it's about the teams themselves. Seeing some of their philosophies and attacking strategies, they might not show too much of their hand, but they want that intensity. And you see the patterns of play and sort of the fruits of all their labours of the last couple of months.
Well, they want the fundamentals right. Both coaches want good scrum, good line out and breakdown. And for Ireland, defensively, they were poor against Scotland. They'll have really worked on that in the last few weeks.
Peter Romani's take this time, and Johnny Sexton, and Dan Biggar comes out of the line quite quickly there and makes the tackle. Now Conor Murray, inside ball for Keith Earls, a knock on by Ireland. So a little lack of precision there from the Irish in that particular movement. Now Toby Faletau to Ken Owens, so the big rampaging forwards out on that wide channel there. In goes Rhys Webb, 19 tries Rhys Webb scored last season for the Ospreys and for Wales.
Mentioned the intensity both coaches will want from their teams. Defensively, in the opening fixtures, see Rhys Webb and the pace he wants to play in the game. Defensively, both Ireland and Wales had their issues in the earlier warm-up games, both in terms of line speed and in terms of making your tackles.
Yeah, and I think Wales want to play at pace. Everybody knows that. That's probably why Adam Jones is not in the squad, and you know, Richard Hibbard, maybe some tight calls like that. They love to play with pace.
Not so precise that time. The Irish line out on the Welsh of the ball. Jimmy Roberts cannot hold it, but Luke Fitzgerald can, and that's an intelligent little kick by Luke Fitzgerald. It's stressing out this Welsh defence, and they look to have recovered well. My goodness, how quickly did those red shirts get in around their man and look after the ball. Rhys Webb gets it back to his out half. Dan Biggar, who puts in a thumping clearance, but not far enough to find Rosed. It allows Ireland to go quickly. And here's Keith Earls, 7 appearances on the wing for Munster last season, all in the 14 shirt, not in the 11 shirt. And once again, there's a movement involving Keith Earls that ends up with a knock-on.
That would have pleased Warren Gatland. The defensive chase, the kick chase there was really well organised from Wales. Nowhere really for Keith Earls to go. He put the big step on, as we can come to expect from the likes of him and Luke Fitzgerald. Really well organised, well disciplined chase. Rob Kearney's always going to look for the quick pass back in field, but the chase well organised. Look at them spreading across the field, no gaps at all.
Yeah, I think it's that work rate that Sean Edwards will be really pleased about. Earls has probably got to head towards the touchline a little bit. When you're coming up the middle of the field like that, and you know, first contact for Keith Earls and he loses the ball, that'll be disappointing for him. And you know, something that Joe Schmidt will be really working on his players. Hold on to that ball. A lot of turnovers in the last couple of games.
This will be interesting. Thomas Francis on the tight head side for Wales. Samson Lee has been doing some live scrummaging, we hear. He's on his way back after that Achilles problem, and Wales get a penalty at that scrummage, so a little bit of a tick in the box there and a pat on the back for Thomas Francis.
Yeah, it's a good scrum from Francis there to get the penalty. I don't think he gets the ball, he gets his side of the scrum up on Jack McGrath, but there's a whip wheel. We can see it here. You can see Jack McGrath just stepping out a tiny bit as it plays on. There is a surge, there is a bit of pressure. His right shoulder's coming up, but Jack McGrath, Strauss and Nathan White standing up. Correct call there.
He was 155 kilograms at university, was Thomas Francis. He's lost 8 kilograms in the camps in Switzerland and Qatar.
It's a big aspect of today's game, the performance of Tom Francis.
Jimmy Roberts, first receiver, such a focal point in terms of the Warren Gatland template for Wales. And now it's Scott Williams, no Jonathan Davis, out with a cruciate injury for the World Cup and beyond. So can Scott Williams make an imprint in the outside centre shirt?
Yeah, and he'll want to put his performance in the first game against Ireland to bed, way off the game that evening.
Now down bigger, and it's Scott Williams standing at inside centre. Great break by Scott Williams, and there was an opportunity there to open up that Irish defence as Nathan White comes back and the ball bounces off the barrel chest of the Irish tight head, but danger signs.
And we're going to get wide. The pull-back pass, again, ball in two hands, just throws Jordy Murphy there. He overcommitted, over-chased, that allowed the gap on the inside. We're fortunate, Nathan White taking his time to go back there.
Yeah, and I think the problem there is Sexton comes out of his line and he isolates Nathan White and Peter O'Mahony a little bit. It'd be frustrating for Ireland. Great break through the middle then, and you know, hint of an offside, is major offside from Nathan White.
Yeah, I think he got away with it because there wasn't a ruck formed.
Rhys Webb to down bigger, and Scott Williams there with Lee Halfpenny outside him as George North back after those concussions. 4 he's had in the last year. Concussed against Wasps. The shin of Nathan Hughes hit him in the head. 27th of March that was. He hasn't played since then. And here is Justin Tipperick. Jamie Roberts. Tipperick 23 tackles in the game in Cardiff, although Ireland lorded the breakdown on that occasion. Here is Dan Bigger. A lot of height on that kick. In come the chasers. And Ireland recover the ball through Richard Strauss now. He was there for the bounce.
I think Kearney does brilliantly there to win that ball. Not cleanly, but get it back in the Irish side.
Jack McGrath carries. Dale Kilcoyne carried really well on the one shirt against Scotland. Another little dink from Ireland. We saw one from Johnny Sexton earlier into the corner.
Brilliant work by Gethin Jenkins. Loose head prop to get back and fall on that ball.
Again, Dan Bigger signals, looks to his left. The ball's going to go high once more. So a clear tackle. Here is Rob Kearney, supreme under the high ball. Twice a Lion. Now Luke Fitzgerald, twice man of the match while playing in the centre for Leinster last season. Once in the Pro 12, once in the Champions Cup. Johnny Sexton launches long. The Lions, player of the series, Lee Halfpenny. Again, it goes through the air. Oh, and Rob Kearney again is really brave. Flying through the air like a trapeze artist there, Rob Kearney.
Well, both he and Dan Bigger are exceptionally strong in the air. Aerially, really dominant. They like to command, and that's a good chase by Bigger as well. Both of their eyes on the ball, both in the air at the same time. Fair collision.
Yeah, super contest, and Kearney is so good in the air. Bigger coming onto the ball, and you know, as Kearney slips in his back, Bigger still fighting a great contest.
Well, our first chance to go down to the gain line and hear from Scott Quinnell.
Yeah, sometimes the simple things are the most effective. Look at this, it's just on the floor, early line out. There it is, wonderful pass by Conor Murray. Get over, Henshaw, that's what he wants. He wants to get into 10. Get over the top of the game, like get your players, your ball carriers into the game early.
I think what I'd like to see from Ireland today is a development on the sort of the kicking game. After 2 or 3 phases, what happens then? Is there something else to come other than the kick downfield? The sides will look to go against that and drop players back and wait for the long kick downfield from Johnny Sexton.
Yeah, well, I think their game is basically built around pressure and that kicking game, strong set piece, and we know that Joe Schmidt, he wants his team to perform the basics so well, but I think going to a World Cup, hopefully they will have something up their sleeve that they can develop. They did show it against Scotland when they, in the last 6 Nations games, when they needed to score tries, so hopefully at the World Cup they'll have some more of that attacking play.
There aren't too many braver players in the air than Dan Biggar, and he seems to have come off worse there in the clash with Rob Kearney. Contrast in the build-up approaches. Ireland's training camps took in Cork, Galway, Kildare. Wales training camps, Switzerland and Qatar. What will work best come World Cup? Wales' altitude and heat approach, or Ireland's altitude and heat-free approach? Ireland a bit more meat and potatoes. Spuds for me any day.
That's the thing about preparation for World Cup. You have no idea how successful the preparation has been until the end of the tournament. And we'll all evaluate then. I think Wales will be delighted to get Dan Biggar back on his feet. That had become such an integral part of their game.
Let's see how the scrum goes this time. Ireland were dominant in the set piece in Cardiff on the 8th of August. That's very solid for Conor Murray to work off, and then for Johnny Sexton. Here is Lee Halfpenny. Keeping the ball in play, Rob Kearney. Dummied to kick and gets smashed for his troubles. Dan Liddy at one of the tacklers. Now Ian Henderson, the versatile Ian Henderson. Second row and back row, so an ideal squad man charge down, in comes Tipperick, and then he gets his hands on the ball again. So brilliant work from the man from Trabanos. Now Biggar out to Alex Cuthbert. Big day for Cuthbert. He's got to impress, or his place in the 31-man squad might be in jeopardy. Off goes Jamie Heaslett. Tackle from Ken Owens. Now Murray has Ian Henderson outside him, but he decides to look for the grass beyond, and he finds it. Now Cuthbert, a Test Lion in 2013, a try-scoring Test Lion in 2013. Johnny Sexton takes his time from inside his 22, and a classic old-style spiral clearance from the Irish 10.
Outstanding open side flanker play. He read that Johnny Sexton was slipping back into the pocket. Again, came around, and that's what Ireland need to develop. What happens in the next phase of ball? Can't only just kick it. Tipperick read that all the way, knew Johnny Sexton was going to kick that ball, pressurised him, and the pace took him there.
Well, their defensive shape is very, very organised, and they seem to be working their way around the corner, getting numbers on the feet, and trying to get up and put that pressure on Ireland there, take away Sexton's space.
Good interference in the line out from Peter O'Mahony, but Wales have gathered. Now Rhys Webb, the Pro 12 Players Player of the Season. Up goes Murray with Cuthbert, and now it's Jordy Murphy. Sexton, and he's sliced that one completely off the outside of his boot. He looks a little bit disconsolate. Didn't get much game time for Racing 92 last season for various reasons. Only 900 minutes for Racing.
Again, massive pressure though. Again, like I just said, yeah, and it's interesting, they seem to be jumping up off the feet, not committing to the breakdown, and just getting those numbers around the corner.
And they seem to work out exactly when Johnny Sexton is going to kick. He has to give himself, he's going to kick a little bit more depth. There's a bit more space and time.
Johnny Sexton has it, and rolls away from the attempted challenge there of George North, but the whistle's gone, and there will be a scrummage. Of course, Wales outsmarted Ireland tactically in the quarter-finals of the World Cup in 2011, and also in Cardiff in the Six Nations.
Well, it's about taking away the kicking game. That's about it. It's easier said than done. It's one thing to say you're going to take it away, it's another thing to actually execute that. But the pressure, both sides, and the line speed from both sides far better than in the opening couple of games of this warm-up period.
And it's that contest at the breakdown. You go back to the Six Nations, you know, Wales just blitzed Ireland around the breakdown, slowed up their possession, numbered up in defence, and frustrated Ireland then.
Equity at scrum time so far, it would seem. Thomas Francis, remember, on that tight head side, important game for the man who qualifies for Wales because his grandmother is from Abercrave, which was the village of the birth of Adam Jones, and it's a penalty here to Wales. I think is that the first penalty of the match?
Yeah, I think it's the first penalty of the match. No, has it been a couple of kicks to touch, isn't it?
It's a good scrum from Francis though. He's quite high. A guy with that amount of weight, he has that weight can really stand to him there. It's just that technique getting a bit lower, but he got the momentum forward there. A bit of a wheel at the end. Faletau has to pick the ball up, but
it's a remarkable journey considering how little top-class rugby he's played. But he's a big man. He's still learning his craft in terms of. I'm sure Wally will talk about it at half-time. But you know, he put a great performance against Corbisiero for Exeter Chiefs against the Saints. Struggled a little bit against a smaller loosehead prop in Nick Wood from Gloucester. And that's the sort of technique he has to develop. But signs are very promising so far.
Ken Owens back after a nasty neck injury. No Richard Hibbert in the squad now, who was axed unceremoniously by Warren Gatland along with Mike Phillips and James Hook. And the maul is progressing. Rickard Strauss does some good defensive work in there to get the tackle in and to semi-negate the maul. And off go Wales, rumbling round the corner, putting this Irish defence to work on. Ian Henderson drives through and over the top. Joe Schmidt will love that rucking style because there was some energy there from the Ulsterman. Here is Conor Murray with the clearing kick, and Ireland will be happy with how they recovered there.
Yeah, great work from Jack McGrath and Henderson, that power coming through. O'Connell initially makes that tackle. We see the latch on here coming around, Gethin Jenkins. O'Connell is at the breakdown. Ken Hone's a little bit high. What a great drive through by Henderson there and Alan Wynne-Jones.
He is such a dynamic player, Ian Henderson. I mean, potential to be a star of the game, that is no doubt. What I like about Wales so far more control and cohesion in their performance as opposed to a couple of weeks ago at the Millennium.
Bradley Davis with the line out take, and it's Tipperick in there again, playing the old Neil back roll so far. That's twice he's been at the tail of that maul. Now here's Scott Williams already. He has scythed his way through this Irish defence, but he's not going to do it this time. And again, Ireland come in driving hard at the breakdown, but here's Rhys Webb now for George North and Dan Biggar for Lee Halfpenny. And Ireland come in from the side. They concede the penalty, which gives us another opportunity to head down to Scott Quinnell.
But Justin Tipperick has had a great start to this game, but we see him do lots of good things. But it's the little things as well as an open side flag. And there we are, Jody Murphy, it's just a little shoulder, it's just a little angle run, and then all of a sudden it just opens that space up, and then Scott Williams is through. So you see a lot of good things, but it's what he does that people don't see as well.
Yeah, I thought Jody Murphy allowed himself to be pushed out of the way far too easily there. You've got to fight for that space.
And that's a little bit of an experience. You've got to get up into that line, be aggressive when there's guys going past us. First opportunity for Wales. There's an unbelievable contest at this breakdown. Even in the wide channels, we see Henshaw making tackles. You know, they're under a little bit of pressure there, but great contest at the breakdown.
Lee Halfpenny, golden boots. And today, quite literally, because we hear there are 9 carat Welsh gold studs in those boots from the hills of Snowdonia.
He'll have to watch his gear bag after the match when he's in Dublin anyway.
With you about, yes, definitely.
Big time.
I don't think he's giving those boots away.
And it's a very shiny start from Golden Boots himself.
Unerring, It just didn't move, didn't deviate at all, just drilled that through the post. Precious commodity, being able to accumulate that many points on the board, just keeps you in the game. All those boots take a new context, and the word boot money.
Sexton, bit of depth in that restart. Falatau to Dan Biggar. A Sky pundit these days in his spare time is Dan Biggar, and a very polite and humble individual he is too.
And he's taken on far more of a leadership role, as he apologised to his teammate. He was hoping for a bit more than that, but he's taken on far more of a leadership role.
He's really matured, hasn't he?
He certainly has. You know, he got comfortable into that outside half role. How important that is.
Strauss did not work there. Some form of miscommunication there. Rhys Webb takes it on. And need a scrum half to move into position. There was Dan Lydiate who took over the role, but it wasn't the best Gareth Edwards class pass, that's for sure, from the blindside flanker. Here's Rhys Webb now. And Lydiate carries, who was one of the master choppers in that World Cup quarter-final against Ireland 4 years ago.
I think the Welsh team won more than that now. A ball carrying capability as well.
Again, Carney, eyes on the ball. He hasn't gathered this one, and Justin Tipuric once more is the first player to read the situation and pounce. Scott Williams is half penny outside. Jamie Roberts on the inside. Brilliant rugby from Wales there, involving Biggar and Roberts. What interplay that was. And now Bradley Davis carries. So Wales beginning to assert themselves in this opening 20 minutes. Gethin Jenkins carries. He's on the verge of a 4th World Cup, is Gethin Jenkins. As Jordy Murphy tries to get his considerable frame over the ball, hasn't managed to do it. Ken Owens carries. Peter O'Mahony makes the tackle. Dan Biggar, yet again, it's the powerful figure of Jamie Roberts off to London next season. And Harlequins, Alan Wynne-Jones, and his 90th appearance for Wales. And this is good continuity from the Welsh. Alan Wynne-Jones again. 6 starting tests as a Lion for Wynne-Jones, the Welsh captain. And they're getting very close here, Wales, and yet again, the key, it seems, is the patience. And the referee was playing an advantage for an offside there, but Wales again putting Ireland under pressure defensively.
Very physical from Wales. They're keeping ball retention. They first of all, gaining a foothold for their high kicks, their aerial game. That's allowing a good position in Ireland's half, and then they're getting the big boys to carry. They're playing an awful lot off scrum half, keeping that, and then they're flooding the challenge thereafter.
Yeah, there's great shape to their attack for a lot of guys who haven't played. It's their first game. These guys know each other so well. They know the shape, they know the guys, the support play. What a pass here from Biggar. Look, off the left. Great pace to Scott Williams, and just those inside lines, Roberts, Biggar, back to halfpenny. That comes with confidence. It just has come their first game.
Yeah, it's also flooding the channel. You know, you expect your ball carrier to make a bust, to make a semi-break, and you're there. You don't only hope someone's going to be supporting you. You expect someone to support you, and that's a different mindset.
And they look like a team in the last couple of weeks. We heard Gatland saying it after the first warm-up game. Their big focus now is on rugby, and I'm sure they've spent a lot of time. And so far, for the first 20 minutes, they look to have great shape about them.
And Joe Schmidt said before the game, one of the keys today was Ireland getting their set piece right. What do you think about that so far, Alan?
Well, I tell you, Alan Wynne-Jones and O'Connell know each other well. They've played together with the lines. They've played against each other, and that gap in that line out, Alan Wynne-Jones is just closing that gap, and they're putting a lot of pressure on that line out, which is frustrating, and there's a timing issue there with the throws as well.
Yeah, when it happened in the Six Nations, well, Wales, I think, stole 4 line-out balls off Ireland in the Six Nations, and last week Jim Hamilton was causing problems to Ireland's line, so something Ireland have to address.
Ireland stole 3 of Wales line-outs in Cardiff at the beginning of August. Not that time though. That was very secure. George North is in the middle of that maul, and so too is Scott Williams, and they certainly add some power and some muscle to that drive. And Wales are inches away. That's Dan Bigger in there. He is orchestrating everything there. He's shouting and roaring at the players around him, getting them into the right positions. Ken Owens goes really low there, like a 16-stone groundhog. Using the monstrous front row forwards there to try and pile drive their way over the line. They haven't quite succeeded.
It's all momentum again and go forward. Great win, the line out, little shift in the drive. Alan Wynne-Jones puts the ball down to Davies at the front and just moves that point of attack a little bit. But for me, that's Ireland are lucky there. That's not a penalty try.
There's certainly evidence of intensity from Wales' performance, but two aspects that were missing in the first game between the two sides: control and cohesion. Far better, far tighter.
That's the 5th penalty Ireland have conceded in the match, 4 of them in their own half.
Yeah, it's coming from all that pressure. Guys coming in from the side. I think could have been Peter O'Mahony in the middle of that line-out.
Alan Wynne-Jones again is the target. And they find the bullseye with their captain. And once again, it's Justin Tipperick carrying, and once again, Ireland concede a penalty inside their own half, close to their line. Rhys Webb knew the penalty was coming, and Craig Joubert will bring them back for that penalty.
Yeah, it was a speculative kick from Rhys Webb. He knew the penalty was coming. Always when you do that, mind your heart in your mouth, just in case the referee thinks that's a long enough advantage. But generally, they were very much trying something out.
Yeah, but I tell you what, though, Ireland are in the grinder right now.
That's now 2 collapses in a row in this area. I have to believe it's a deliberate tactic.
The pressure's really been exerted as Welsh Park. That time you saw George North and Jamie Roberts both putting themselves in that driving line out.
You can't underestimate the value of having someone like Thomas Francis that's so big and strong. It gives you that anchor at the front. John Hayes played that role for Munster, for Ireland throughout the years when they were mauling, and you can see Francis at the front of that maul. It's taken 2 guys to kind of get in anywhere near the ball.
Well, it's fill in space. I mean, it's a very difficult defensive team to go in there and disrupt, because such a big man. How do you get around him?
The line-out's been functioning well for Wales in this key area, and it does again. This time Bradley Davis is the target, and yet again the backs are in there, with George North and Jamie Roberts, I think, is in there too, and Scott Williams. A mass of Welsh flesh. And it's like a huge red tourniquet. They just squeezed and squeezed and intensified the pressure wave on wave.
Yeah, it was coming. That pressure was coming. You know, we've seen the penalties given away. Great organisation there. Davies takes the ball at the front. Lydiate is in at it. You know, it's Wynne-Jones here, actually. My apologies. Takes the ball at the front. It's great shape. You have Francis, Lydiate, Bradley Davies, and then you have the backs joining Scott Williams, North, and that momentum is just taking them forward. You can see the fight. Ireland are a little bit high at the front, and that momentum gets them over in the end.
The sheer bulk and weight, but also got to compliment the communication. Those things just don't work by accident. They work because they're prepared, they've practiced, a lot of communication, a lot of talking involved.
And that front line work after that ball is lifted, when Alan Wynne-Jones goes up in the air, it's the guys lifting him. They're vital, and if you don't break that up straight away, if they get set, which Wales did there, you're in trouble. It's all about body shape, body height and strength then.
Well, Ireland beat Wales 35-21 on the 8th of August. But it's Wales in the ascendancy here. A much stronger Welsh team, of course. That was very much the second string, but the first choice selection showing what power and intensity they have. And we think the try has been scored by Justin Tipperick.
And they seem to want to take Ireland on up front in this first kind of, you know, round the fringes, in the scrum, in the line out. So they're obviously sent out with that. We know that Wales can play the wide game, but certainly up early on, the first 20-25 minutes, they're taking Ireland directly on up front.
George North. There's a lot of muscle about this Welsh performance, a lot of muscle in the frame of George North there, and it is great to see him back after all of those concussions. His 50th cap today, youngest player ever to 50 caps in an international jersey. Dan Biggar, and this is Keith Earl's ball. He's got Johnny Sexton outside on the inside ball to Rob Kearney. Good footwork by Kearney, tackled missed by Wales. Now Conor Murray to Rob Kearney's brother Dave. Andrew Trimble, by the way, 80 minutes for Ulster against Edinburgh last night. Tommy Bowe, 40 minutes completed and a try scored for Ulster in the same game. So big, heavy competition in the wing burst for Ireland, closing in on the announcement of that 31-man squad. Sexton, yet again, looks for the inside ball. Paul O'Connell, don't think he was quite expecting that, but the Irish captain does well to hold on to it. O'Mahony, another Munster man. Some ferocious defending by Wales. Scott Williams coming in there. Now Rickard Strauss, and Wales again trying to get at Ireland before they can get themselves over the gain line. Ian Henderson, he does get through the gain line, and quite good tiptoeing work for a massive man in there, Ian Henderson, just to get away from the tackler. Johnny Sexton, up comes Jamie Roberts again. He commits himself defensively to hit Jamie Hazlip, but Alan Wynne-Jones has been penalised for not rolling away, and Ireland get the kick at the post, you would think, from a position like this.
A lot of that pressure, Mylan, came on this kick reception. Now you've got Alice Cuthbert chasing this. Now he decides he's not going to get there the same time as the ball, but he stops and he goes backwards, which then allows Ireland an opportunity to counter-attack. You've got to keep going. If you're not going to get there the same time as the ball, just ease off a bit, but you've got to hit the man. You can't allow him to re-establish a platform and beat that first man.
It's a poor enough kick from Biggar crossfield as well. I think he got caught between the crossfield and putting some height in it. As you say, though, you know, you've got to come up, hold the line. Kearney runs a great line on the inside, that support line. Earls knows he's coming. Great line by Kearney on the inside. A little bit of momentum there from Ireland, a little bit of a reaction, but I still think Wales are frustrating that little bit. The ball is coming back too slow for Conor Murray.
First penalty conceded by Wales. Johnny Sexton defines Ireland in the way a fig defines a fig roll. Can Ireland function effectively at the World Cup? Should Sexton get injured? All of Ireland dreads that.
Explain fig roll to me.
You're not as bright as I thought. But the bright start here has come from Wales, but Ireland at last post some points.
Welcome respite from the pressure Wales had exerted on Ireland, and Johnny Sexton able to nail the point. They'll want to start becoming a bit more physical. I've been a little bit surprised at the lack of physicality from Ireland so far in this game. They need to step, particularly in view of what we've seen from France so far in these warm-up games. Been really physical up front.
I think they're a little bit lateral. We saw a great break from Ian Henderson. Strong Welsh defence in front of him, but great little footwork, and that's what he brings. Ireland just got to get over that gain line. Credit to Wales, their defensive structure and their work rate and their application to breakdown has been first class so far.
Peter O'Mahony carries outside the 22, which of course limits the options then for the players behind him. And nice hands from Ireland, but it's all on the edge of their own danger zone. So is that the best policy? A question for the boys. I'm sure they have an answer. Here's Jordy Murphy. And now Conor Murray looks around him and he finds his fullback Rob Kearney. He slices the ball. So another a poor passage of play perhaps from Ireland.
Well, cameo sort of mirrors the opening half an hour of this game. Really not being able to make significant yardage with their ball carrying, forced back into the pocket, and then poor kicks, not gaining territory. They're losing the collisions at the moment, which means they're not going anywhere, not going forward.
Wales have had a couple of practice matches since they played against Ireland, an in-house game, and then a match against the Ospreys. They plan to play Cardiff next week, I believe. Here's Cuthbert carrying hard. That's good work again from Wales. Very much the template, using those big carriers to smash away through the green line. Rhys Webb to Scott Williams, and you feel Wales are building rapidly in confidence here. And as I said that, they turn the ball over and Ireland have it through Ian Henderson.
Onside Wales.
Conor Murray clears. Lee Halfpenny, two of the finest exponents of taking the high ball in world rugby in terms of the 15 shirt on show today, in Lee Halfpenny and Rob Kearney. Now Bradley Davis. Again, he just makes that extra half metre, which is so important. And now Dan Biggar puts in the kick for Roberts and Cuthbert to chase. Keith Earls has to be strong here. Wales have it through Roberts going down on the ball. And here is Rhys Webb. It's Ken Owens.
There's a better kick from Dan Biggar. Good hang time, able to compete.
Wales commit a sin, not racing at the breakdown. Ireland turning the ball over and winning a penalty.
Yeah, good work from Peter O'Mahony there to break down. He just got into that contest, but you mentioned, Jai, superb kick from Biggar across field, isolating Earls with Cuthbert and Jamie Roberts coming on. It's a very, very difficult situation. Really good vision out of him.
I think Peter O'Mahony's ploughing a very lonely furrow at the moment. When you look at the breakdown, he seems to be battling a lot of Welsh jerseys on his own.
Yeah, well, the Welsh numbers are good at the breakdown, and you know, Heaslip makes a tackle here, gets in, locks in. A little bit of help from Luke Fitzgerald. We can see the left hand around the back. That helps when you're in there as a player. It stabilises you a bit from that hit that you're going to receive from the opposition.
Ireland 16 wins out of 20 under Joe Schmidt. That already under threat in this game as Jimmy Heaslip takes the line out ball, and Robbie Henshaw with a characteristic charge from inside centre. That's Keith Earls in the midfield, where he is, of course, comfortable. Played in the outside centre shirt against Wales in Cardiff alongside Darren Cave. Both centres played well in that game. Conor Murray. Oh, another little fumble in there from Ireland. Again, they were closing in on the red zone of Wales, and then the little nudge.
These games are called warm-ups for a very good reason, getting used to things, but be worrying Ireland slightly is how ineffective their phase played at the moment. They're not making significant enough yardage. They're doing good off the first phase, making good yardage, and then after that, as you mentioned a few times, when the ball's been slowed down to pretty much walking speed.
But Wales are getting that balance really right there. Henshaw makes an initial surge, and they're relying on some footwork to get him through that little gap. Ken Owens, the hooker, makes the carry, gets back on his feet again and slows that ball. Conor Murray's digging for the ball. The next ruck, there's nobody in it. There's no Welsh player. Scott Williams makes a tackle, he bounces up around, and there's no contest then. So they're getting that balance brilliantly right, Wales.
Ireland needs to pick up and go a little bit more, just to pull in defenders. They're not attracting enough defenders.
Absolutely, I think they need to run around the fringes a little bit harder. There's just so many guys running out, so many numbers in front of Sexton, and they're coming off the line really well. So, you know, this is typical Sean Edwards' defence.
Well, Wales scrum against Ireland in Cardiff was about as stable as the Chinese stock market, but this time it looks much more secure.
Is that where you've invested all your millions, is it?
Crouch. Bind. Set. Hits and chase, Green. Hits and chase, wait for the
You might have heard Craig Joubert there. Ireland penalised for hitting and chasing.
It's a bit finicky, that one. He blew it very, very early. I don't know if there was much in that, but a little boost for Wales there. And Thomas Francis again.
Craig Joubert, by the way, will handle both of these teams in the World Cup. He'll be refereeing the Ireland-Romania game and the Australia-Wales game, which might be pivotal. In comes Rob Kearney. Great take again. My goodness, he claims those balls well. Conor Murray for Ian Henderson. Again, he tries to use that quick footwork on the floor, which can be so effective, as he's already shown in this game.
As he wants to be in full back, commitment and conviction.
Sexton and Keith Earls once more popping up in the middle of the pitch. Didn't quite work, but Ireland still have possession through Luke Fitzgerald. His first start in the 13 shirt for Ireland since a game against Argentina in November 2008. Loose from Ireland. Jack McGrath grapples on the ball, on the floor for the ball, and collects. Sexton, that look forward to Richard Strauss. Was that another
first infringement
error by Ireland there? Well, actually, the Welsh committed the first infringement there, which was offside.
Contesting the ball is good.
There's no breathing space for Ireland and Johnny Sexton at the moment. The pressure is relentless from Wales. They're getting back on their feet, reloading, getting back in position, pressurising, keeping that line speed going. And it's closing down the space. It's suffocating Ireland and Johnny Sexton at the moment.
Yeah, it's very, very impressive. That line speed is incredible, and it's so difficult as a player when you make tackles, get back on your feet, get organised, look what's in front of you, communicate, and then actually push forward. So they look very fit, they look very sharp. And you mentioned, Rob, on commentary, they've had some in-house games in the last few weeks, and it's obvious to see that.
Strice for Ian Henderson, 6'7" to aim for. Robbie Henshaw, now Luke Fitzgerald. Conor Murray. That's a bit more like it from Ireland. Just getting a modicum of momentum there. Now Nathan White, the former Waikato captain, 33 years of age in his first start in an Irish shirt. Jack McGrath carries. Cian Healy may be on the bench next week, we hear, against England at Twickenham. Oh, thundering tackle coming in there on Paul O'Connell. He was almost upended. I think it was Dan Lydiot in classic style. Lydiot's certainly the last man to get up. Here is Heaslip. The captain in Cardiff was Jamie Heaslip. Oh, and just yet again in this first half, just when Ireland look as if they're beginning to cause an issue to this Welsh defence, they knock on or concede a penalty, and that's the 7th penalty Ireland have conceded.
Yeah, Ireland are throwing numbers into the breakdown, and they're still being beaten. I'm going to commit more and more green jerseys to every breakdown. But Wales seem very adept and only slowing that ball down but turning it over as well, and that time Tipuric very much in evidence.
Well, it's an awareness, yeah, and when to go in, when not to go in, when to compete, and when the ball is lost, and they're getting that right at the moment. And Tipuric sensed an opportunity, and he is so good at that. He's so quick, he spins around, gets the body position right, and wins the penalty. Super work from Tipuric.
That's when great players in the breakdown have always been superior to the others. They've scanned, they've identified where the opportunity, and whether that's the likes of Brian Driscoll or whether it's the like of Richie McCaw, Pocock, Hooper, they identify when and they act on it.
Oh, it's way over the head of Alan Wynne-Jones there. Easy ball for Richard Strice. Sexton for Henshaw, the wraparound, we've seen it so often. And now Dave Carney collects the ball from brother Rob. And Lee Halfpenny, I think that ball ricocheted off his shin, but he did well to get back to the ball.
Lee Halfpenny covers acres and acres of territory.
Ireland have this on the floor.
A chance at the goal here.
Again, as you say, gentlemen, can they now identify what space there is on that pitch? There hasn't been very much for Ireland in this first half. Wales have closed it all down. Geordie Murphy is the latest to feel the weight of a big Welsh tackle from Alan Wynne-Jones. Nathan White for Luke Fitzgerald. Johnny Sexton for Keith. Oh, that was so close to being the perfect weight for the Munster man.
The key defender earlier on in those phases was Dan Bigger. He cut off the wide pass, knew there was danger outside. He cut off the wide pass, and then that happened. I forced the kick behind and nearly bounced up into Keith Earl's hands.
You can't underestimate the work of Rhys Webb as well there. He just becomes an extra defender. There's a little bit of panic there when Ireland get that go forward. If Heaslip can get the pass away, but Rhys Webb just filling in the line really well there. And good kick from Sexton. If he gets the bounce, Earls is a try.
Yeah, we're knowing that Johnny Sexton loves those little dinks over the top. Someone has to cover that chip zone, whether that's the blindside winger, whether that's the scrum half, Rhys Webb. Someone has to cover, because it's a big part of Johnny Sexton's game.
Well, Wales, you feel, on the blow, will be quite happy here. Simply to win the ball and get it off the park. And that would signify a very sound opening 40 minutes from this Welsh team. But Ireland have got the drive on here, and they've won a late penalty in this first half. And that will puff out the green chest at just the right time. Off goes Heaslip. Can Ireland finish this half with a try? Francis comes in and he's pulled away. Craig Joubert points in the Irish direction. Geordie Murphy. Ireland are normally very good in these situations. They have the what you would call the opposite of white line fever. They're able usually just to go through the phases nice and patiently, and then strike when they feel the defence is stretched, or they can find a way through the middle. Here is Robbie Henshaw, he takes that route. Dan Lydiate makes another tackle for Wales. Jordy Murphy this time, Ken Owens tackles him. Conor Murray as Jack McGrath outside, and again it's Rhys Webb who makes a punishing tackle, and they're all at it here in those Welsh shirts. It's been a gargantuan first half defensive performance from all of the men in red. Murray, Johnny Sexton yet again, it is the kick for Carney to chase, and that is gathered by George North, but there was a penalty coming Ireland's way.
I think he had the penalty coming, but how quick was Rhys Webb off the line there, and Jack McGrath, Tipuric off the line, Wyn Jones on O'Connell, incredible defence.
Yeah, Wales will be disappointed with that. They switched off in that scrum, and the scrum has been really good throughout the game. They switched off, they were thinking about half-time. You can't afford to switch off till that whistle's blown.
Murray, O'Mahony. Conor Murray, Ian Henderson. Oh, huge man is Ian Henderson. Can he use that 6'7" to stretch for the line? And the green machine at last has rolled into action.
Well, what a try from Henderson. We spoke about the step earlier on. That power, that incredible power and surge of pace he has. It all comes from a quick penalty again. O'Mahony makes the hard yards here, just gets him that little bit go forward. Quick play of the ball, isolated on Dan Biggar, and he's able to reach out to great power and pace through.
I think it came from that poor scrum initially, but how hard did Ian Henderson work to get around the corner? You've got to work really hard. At the end of a hard 40-minute slog, work so hard to get wide, get around the corner and make yourself an option.
Well, an absolutely fascinating and absorbing first half of World Cup warm-up rugby. This has felt like a true, full international hit-out. Nothing too warm up about it. Ireland 10, Wales 10 at the break.
But 2 minutes where they switched off allowed Ireland back in the game. But otherwise, really pleased with the intensity and the physicality they brought.
Sexton in the sunshine. Very humid here today in Dublin. There are thunder showers forecast to hit Dublin in about half an hour. Let's hope they skirt us and drift away over the Irish Sea.
Use it!
Rhys Webb, the ball is just outside the 22 there, so he puts in a mighty high box kick, and it's taken by Keith Earls.
It's that man Tipuric making the tackle.
Jimmy Heaslip goes to ground, and Johnny Sexton finds Robbie Henshaw inside. Ball to Rob Carney. Jordy Murphy. And the ball ripped away. Scott Williams doing that ripping work in there. We've seen him do that a lot in club and country colours.
Quite interesting in terms of that phase of play there. Ireland then looked for the inside pass, something a little bit different to the orthodox sort of phase play we saw them going this, where it was very easy for Wales to defend it. That time, just asked a few more questions, put that aspect that always frightened defences, doubt, in minds, and looking for the inside pass. All of a sudden, you're questioning the guy on the inside. Is he going to make up that space? And that's what I need to do far more. I think at half-time they talk about the extra guile in Ireland's game.
Gethin Jenkins on the loosehead side becomes the world's most capped prop today, including Lions tests, passing Jason Leonard. So a momentous day for Jenkins, who will be the Cardiff captain when he comes back from the World Cup, should he be selected. 31-man squads announced at the beginning of next week. Conor Murray for Sexton. Henshaw becoming more prominent in this game is the Connacht inside centre. Peter O'Mahony, Justin Tipuric once more involved. No, Sam Warburton out with a pinched nerve to his shoulder, nothing serious. Oh, that's not a great pass. It put Fitzgerald under pressure there. Ireland have managed to secure the ball. Paul O'Connell. Murray for Sexton. A little bit of space in there behind Alex Cuthbert, and that has worked out very tidily for the Ireland out half.
Yeah, it's a super kick, but he's forced to kick again. I think Ireland, Wales defending really well. They're under a lot of pressure that time. Cuthbert is just up. We can see here there's a bit of a chase again. Pressure, Lydiate coming out on him. Great kick. He gets the bounce. Superb by Sexton.
Ken Owens, and it's Bradley Davis. So Davis and Alan Wynne-Jones have taken the multitude of Wales line-out balls so far. Ireland not quite getting in amongst the Wales line-out as they did in Cardiff at the beginning of the month. But of course there are some master practitioners out there for the Welsh. Dave Carney straightens and goes. He made a run not dissimilar to that against Scotland when he went clean through the Tartan defence. Luke Fitzgerald up quickly as Jamie Roberts. Now Conor Murray. Here's Jack McGrath. Good carry. Now getting in behind this Welsh defence. Robbie Henshaw tries to step away from Dan Lydiate. Sexton. Jamie Roberts makes another tackle, getting to his feet quickly, getting back into that defensive line, keeping Sean Edwards happy, which apparently is quite difficult. It's all a bit static again for Ireland, so Paul O'Connell comes in to regenerate things for the men in green. Johnny Sexton for Fitzgerald. We all know about how quick his feet can be in tight confines. O'Connell. Ireland showed great patience in the lead up to that try at the end of the first half. Can they show that patience again? They're scrambling here. It was Dave Carney to the rescue. Jack McGrath. Bradley Davis. Good defence again. They're really punching hard out of that defensive line are Wales, and it's Gethin Jenkins, the world's most capped prop, who wins the turnover.
It's a mixed bag from Ireland there. Some outstanding work. Carney gets that initial break, really quick ball. Jack McGrath off Murray. Then it becomes passive again. Guys standing up, but that's credit to Wales. Their urgency, the breakdown. Outstanding work there from them. Getting off the line again, holding them up.
Yeah, astonishing hunger from Gethin Jenkins. Still chasing and harrying upfield, making those hits as well as going through the scrummaging process. But you saw little moments there where Ireland might well have developed from the talk they probably had at half-time. Looking for the inside passes. So Conor Murray made a couple of snipes around the fringe, particularly with Wales not overly committing to the breakdown. There were a couple of opportunities there for Murray. Quick play of the ball, sniping, looking round, no time for Wales to reload. That's better from Ireland. That's far more effective use of their possession. But all of a sudden, they get dragged back down.
Falatau and Wynne-Jones between them, winning the ball. Here's Jimmy Roberts. He is a difficult customer to stop, and it was Geordie Murphy who made the tackle on the soon-to-be mighty Quinn, and he certainly will be mighty in that jersey next season. Ken Owens. Off goes the captain. Around the corner again, and Rhys Webb and Ireland get a hand in there. So that was clever defensive work there by the ever-alert Ian Henderson.
He's been impressive. I talked about Peter O'Mahony ploughing a lonely furrow in that first half. Ian Henderson's also stepped up to the mark towards the end of that second half, and initially in this second half. But Wales are trying to play off 9, trying to play off Rhys Webb, trying to keep that tempo going, always probing, and he managed to get across. Shrugs off a would-be defender just to get there. Thomas Francis couldn't quite stop that little dive from Ian Henderson.
Sexton is isolated as well, and we know how good Rhys Webb is. If he bounces out off that ruck, he's running at Sexton with guys coming off him. So that was really, really important what Henderson did there. He's matured again. We spoke about maturity earlier with Dan Biggar. Henderson, still a young guy. He's only 23. He's matured so much. He's an important, really, really important player for Ulster now, and starting to become a really important player for Ireland.
Gethin Jenkins passing Jason Leonard's record, the world's most capped prop, his 115th cap for Wales today. Tack on his test caps as a Lion and 3 Lions tours. and you reach that incredibly impressive total.
Astonishing career, and still retaining that drive, that hunger to still keep that fitness levels going, keep that hunger still there, determination, and he inspires players around him and demands a lot of players around him.
Paul James comes on for that man, Gethin Jenkins. Paul James will be back in an Ospreys shirt next season, having had a successful spell, impressive spell at Bath.
Bind. Set.
Resolute, immovable Irish scrum
Use it.
on that occasion. Saxton, another one of those dinky little chips from Johnny Saxton.
Very much a part of his arsenal. Always look to take on a rush defence, but those little dinks over the top, that's not quite going his way that time.
Yeah, and it's the space they're looking for. It's something that obviously they've looked at half-time and spoke about how quick that defence is coming up, and sometimes they're moving the ball laterally, getting isolated, so we might see some more of that.
The Scarlet. He can't find the Dragon, but he has found Ian Henderson again. Murray for Murphy.
Hey, Trent, let it go!
Saxton, little pump pass, dummy pass from Saxton. Again, we know he has that in the armoury. We've seen it so often. He'll be back in a Leinster shirt next season. The Irish out half. Murray, Saxton, Murphy, Saxton. Attempted show and go. Murray, Peter O'Mahony. It's interesting to see the Irish forwards trying to step out of contact, using their footwork. Here's Strauss, and there's an injury. It's Peter O'Mahony has gone down. Doesn't look too flash at the moment, and that would be a worrying sight for Irish fans and management, and of course for the player himself. Tommy O'Donnell already suffering a serious injury in the back row for Ireland against Wales in Cardiff. Here is Keith Earls pirouetting and spinning.
Counter-ruck, good.
And great counter-ruck from Wales there. Brilliant at the breakdown. Scott Williams in possession. Lee Halfpenny's your scrum half. Ken Owens goes. Henderson involved again, making the tackle. Lee Swab for Falatau. Another very important figure in this Welsh makeup. He's very much part of that successful Gatland matrix. Webb in comes Carney, and it's Dave this time. It's not the usual suspect. It is brother Rob. He shows he can do it just as well. Now Henshaw got there. Space. Tipperick covers it. Brilliant from the open side to get there and halt Henshaw.
What the tackle on Tipperick, because Henshaw got to the outside shoulder.
There's Murray, Johnny Sexton. He thinks he sees a gap. This time it's another back row forward. Dan Lydiate makes the tackle. Now Paul O'Connell. Critical meters. And I think it might have been Tipperick who was in there at the breakdown this time for Wales. Certainly their work there is really, really crisp.
Well, ubiquitous. Justin Tipperick, he is everywhere on this field. Whether it's carrying, whether it's at the breakdowns, making tackles, understanding, scanning, when to counter-ruck, he's everywhere.
Unbelievable series of play there. Started with Dave Kearney in the air, but as you say, Tipperick outstanding. And the work rate out of Bradley Davis, Tipperick, we see Dave Kearney here, so competitive. Gets right over Jamie Roberts. Outstanding take. Gave Ireland a huge lift. They go wide, and it ends up with a turnover. But the work rate from Davies, Tipperick.
Yeah, I understand how good that tackle was. He got held by Jamie Hislop, and then it changed direction and put acceleration on to get to the outside, because Henshaw had got around the corner. That's a world-class centre coming around the corner. He brushes the fend away, gets the tackle in. That's his 12th tackle of the game.
and he made 23 tackles in the game in Cardiff. One of the questions was, you know, could Tipuric do a Warburton at the breakdown? Warren Gatland said this week, we know all about Tipuric's class in the wider areas. Can he do the dirty graft?
Yeah, well, he's shown it today, he can. The reaction there when he makes the tackle of Henshaw, his first thought process, where's the ball and how quick can I get back on my feet? Incredible fitness and work rate there. And, you know, he gets the turnover 2 phases later. Superb work.
Couple of turnovers for Justin Tipuric in the game, and Dan Lydiate has gone off. That's a blood replacement. So the versatile James King comes on, and it's an important spell for James King because he might nudge his way into that 31-man squad on the back of that versatility.
Well, the thing about these sort of warm-up games is a chance to play your way out to contention, as a chance to play your way into contention, but you have to grasp it with both hands when you get that moment.
Sean O'Brien is on for Ireland. O'Brien, who captained the Irish in the game against Scotland, and Peter O'Mahony is being replaced. He took a knock a few moments ago, O'Mahony. All in Ireland hope that he's okay. Here is Cuthbert. He looked okay there. He went straight past Sean O'Brien, who obviously isn't quite into match rhythm yet. You wouldn't expect him to be, having just arrived from the bench. Sexton, oh, I was close to being a charge down there. Dan Biggar took it off and really got his fingers to it. North inside to Halfpenny. Johnny Sexton. Rob Carney. Tackle from James King. Dave Carney for Luke Fitzgerald. He was set up there and Paul James half got to him.
Ken Owens turnover nearly.
Sean O'Brien here. Sean Cronin, he's got electric pace off the mark as Cronin, Leinster's Players' Player of the Year last season. Here's Jimmy Heaslip in those white boots of his. Brighter than Donny Osmond's teeth, those boots are. Here is Murray. And Ireland have a player down here. And Johnny Sexton puts the chip through. It looks like it's too deep. Oh, it bounce. It bounces well eventually for North, but he still has work to do. And Rob Carney hauls the massive Welsh winger into touch.
Yeah, good chase from Carney, pressurising George North. Well placed kick though, turned George North, and you never know with a bounce of the ball where it's going to go.
Good defence from Wales again, and you know, North is there. He gets the bounce, it stays up, and great work by Carney to put him into touch. It's coming on the back of that momentum, is coming on the back of quicker presentation at the breakdown for Conor Murray. Sean O'Brien, one particular big carry. You see the pressure coming on here. Carney is there, he knocks down the fend. We spoke about Tipuric doing it a minute ago. It's knocking that hand down, putting him into touch. And that's great pressure by Carney.
The reason that kick worked well, because they held the defence initially, and that created the space. It held Lee Halfpenny. You hold Lee Halfpenny, and then you put the ball behind the wing. Those kicks find grass, but it's all about holding defenders first of all. And that rear echelon of defenders, Lee Halfpenny, Cuthbert and George North, you've got to put questions in their mind.
Next weekend at Twickenham, England play Ireland. Final warm-up game for both teams, 2 o'clock, Sky Sports 1. England coming off the back of a defeat in Paris. Sean Cronin to his potential mate Jimmy Heaslip, and now it's Sean O'Brien as Ireland try to power something around the front of that line out. And the ball is held up, says... No, he's gone to the...
Check, or are you happy held up?
Definitely held up.
It's held up, I think.
Okay. We'll check. Yeah, okay.
Well, Craig Javert
Graham, we think it's probably held up, just want to make sure.
thinks it's held up.
Okay, I'll have a look.
But he just wants to double check through Graham Hughes that it's not a try.
Have a look out for the guy in the scrum cap, Tipuric, if we see it again. He gets his hands on the ball here, Tipuric.
Angle. Yeah.
Well, you talk about players doing unseen work. We've quite literally seen Tipperick today doing a lot of work that we actually can't actually see.
Well, that's unbelievable. Look at his hands on the ball there. He strips the ball away out of Sean O'Brien's grasp. That's incredible work from Tipperick. He saves potentially a try there. Watch him coming in here, gets that right hand in there as he's been driven out, takes the ball with him.
Talking about just Tipperick to the down and dirty
Okay,
stuff.
Craig. It was lost forward just short of the line by Green, so it's a scrum 5 red ball.
Okay. So knock on short of the line by Green, red scrum.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Thanks. Lost forward by Green, short of the line, red scrum.
Actually wasn't held up, as you can see there from discussions between Craig Joubert and Graham Hughes. So the Welsh get a chance to clear here through their scrimmage.
It wasn't lost forward, it was taken by Tipperick. It wasn't lost in the tackle. Tipperick strips that ball and does superb.
Brilliant work by him, though. Absolutely brilliant work by Tipperick.
Well, Wales were in this position right at the end of the first half, and their scrum failed to hold on. Ireland got the surge on, and it looks like, they whip-wheeled and gave away the penalty instead.
Yeah, you can clearly see and hear what Joubert is saying there. It's that pressure coming up on Jack McGrath, and you know, when you see that surge going around there, it's got to go forward. It's got to go forward. It's too much of a whip, and I think that is the right decision, unfortunately, from an Irish point of view.
Ireland showed a noticeable step up in intensity in the last 5 to 10 minutes or so. The likes of Sean O'Brien on the field to bring that ball carrying ability.
Luke Charteris is on and instantly into the action. 6'9" frame. Spent a lot of time in France, Charteris, at Perpignan and Racing 92, as they are now known. They've dropped the Metro. And that ball from Webb dropping towards Carney. Tipperick, great hands. Here's Jimmy Roberts. And Jimmy Roberts smashing his way, the human boulder on the rampage there. Scott Williams to Dan Biggar. They're bringing all the big men into play now. George North on the far side of the pitch from his field position of left wing. Dan Biggar, Scott Williams, quick pass for Lee Halfpenny. Jimmy Roberts is close to getting to this one, and back there in desperation goes Dave Carney.
He probably really wanted George North or Alice Cuthbert out wide here, but brilliant work once again. Tipperick, high hanging kick in the air. The chase is there, able to snap, and quick hands away. Just move the point to focus constantly. Kept that pressure on.
Paul O'Connell to Conor Murray. And Ireland looking to exit here. Might take another drive, because their scrum half is tied in there.
Use it!
And now he's back on his feet. There's Murray. Never hurry a Murray, isn't that what they say?
A great kick from a guy who was held at the bottom of the breakdown there. Ireland had to regenerate that to get him back on his feet. He's a superb footballer as well. Very, very important to Ireland. You know, lying on his back, pops up and puts in a great clearance there.
Scott Baldwin is on, very impressive in the Six Nations, 3 starts in that competition. Also started against South Africa, the win over South Africa in November. Baldwin very highly rated by the Welsh management. He must be, if you're able to discard the likes of Richard Hibbert. Oh, lovely little pop ball from Rhys Webb. Nicely timed that move to bring George North into the play again. Charteris. It's all going rather quiet here at the Aviva Stadium as Lee Halfpenny comes in. And some good defensive duty there by Keith Earls. But Wales still have it. Now Baldwin. And now it's Wyn Jones. Rhys Webb. Dan Biggar. Scott Williams. Up comes Johnny Sexton commits himself defensively.
Back time, Green.
Rhys Webb to George North. Didn't really have time to get out of the blocks there, George North. Very much taking it standing still. The momentum comes from Scott Baldwin.
Let it go, Green, off your feet. Get off the line.
Slower ball. Oh, Rhys Webb. Many times has he made that move for the Ospreys in Wales. But Paul O'Connell read it. He wasn't going to get through the Irish captain. And now they have the ball, and Conor Murray knows there has to be some space in behind this Welsh defence. But oh no, Lee Halfpenny, he's always there, isn't he? He covers so much ground, the Welsh and Lions fullback. It is astonishing. Here is Sexton. He looks up, he sees where the space is, launches it high. Now it's North. And Tipperick collects, and Cuthbert could be away here, and Luke Fitzgerald has to defend. He doesn't have to in the end, because Keith Earls does some great work once more.
Great defensive by the Earls there to get there.
Alan Wynne-Jones.
Use it!
Rhys Webb. There's been a lot of high up and unders from both sides. Dan Biggar again tests the Carney family, and Dave Carney answers. Johnny Sexton drills it, and he needed the bounce there. He had the bounce working in his favour with an earlier similar type of kick. Not this time. And Dan Biggar yet again to the Irish out half. Johnny Sexton takes on his opposite number. Jack McGrath's carry. Ireland really hoping that Cian Healy will be fit by the time the World Cup comes around. Maybe not for the Canada-Romania games, but certainly for Italy and France. Henshaw.
So all that fitness work pays dividends. This is lung-busting stuff. Ball in play a lot.
Ball's available. No ruck.
Murray McGrath. He's doing a Dave Kilcoyne today as Jack McGrath. Kilcoyne is well known for his carrying ability. Johnny Sexton, Keith Earls off after this one. The whistle is gone though from Craig Joubert, and I think there's a flag on the far side here, and Greg Joubert is going to talk to Luke Pearce.
Yeah.
Right down here.
Yeah.
As the guy in the blue scrum ahead trying to get the ball, you can net code off it.
Penalty only?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Oh. Clean out by the neck. No, it's one of the key focus areas, penalty. Clean out by the head.
Clean out by the neck. Very clear from Luke Pearce, and it's...
Send them on, send them on. Yep, sure, good.
Yeah, and I think it's something, it's, you know, it's... There's not a lot in it, but I think it's around the shoulders.
That sort of judo throw, pulling people onto their necks and heads. That's what they worry about there.
That's not clear cut, so, but he calls it. There is a clear directive to the referees now. Any arms around neck in rucks, in mauls and tackles. So it's better to be safe than sorry. I know that man will be frustrated by that. It was a touch and go call there, but there is a directive there now.
You might argue that it wasn't clear and obvious, but you can understand them veering towards the safe side of discretion.
I think it was very safe, that one.
Dan Biggar for touch. He finds touch and gives us a second or two to go down to Scott Quinnell.
Justin Tipperick has been superb this afternoon. I just have a little look at this. Here he is in the blue head guard. He goes over the top, eyes on the ball, no problem. Look at that. It's just right down over the top, and that is a try saver.
He's had some game as Justin Tipperick, and showing that he would be a mighty fine backup to Sam Warburton in the World Cup. And Ireland doing a bit of pilfering there, getting their hands all over the ball, and that is superb. Off a penalty from Wales to win the ball back in that fashion.
Advantage over.
Sexton, how many times have we seen that little kick today that's gone straight into the arms of Lee Halfpenny, and it simply gives the ball back to Wales, and you don't want to give it back to George North. But again, Keith Earls makes a superb tackle, and he's really stood up in that department today as the Munsterman, who's injured as a result. Scott Williams to another Scott, Baldwin, Alan Wynne-Jones. Lee Halfpenny tries to step away and through Ian Henderson. This must be exhausting. We've hardly had a break in this second half. Off goes Paul James.
It's been relentless. The ball in play time, huge in the second half.
Dan Biggar, his turn to test the green line. Keith Earls is still down here. It doesn't look too good for Earls, a man who's had a long history of catastrophic injuries. Baldwin and Jordy Murphy, he tries to do a Tipuric over the ball there, doesn't quite manage it that time, gets another chance, doesn't manage it that time either, and then Tipuric carries. A very messy breakdown that is, but it's Welsh ball eventually. Bigger for Scott Williams, and he's got Hallam Amos now off the bench. He tried a kick very similar to that in the game in Cardiff, did Hallam Amos, when he started at full back. But we will come back for a penalty infringement against Ireland, and again, very kickable position as the thunderclouds roll in and Ireland attend to Keith Earls.
I think the big focus is on Keith Earls here. He seems to have got a head knock and a tackle in North. He's been brilliant today defensively, Earls, but for me, an horrendous call by Joubert there. Henderson holds that up. It's a maul. He's at the wrong side of the ruck. His body, his positioning is really bad. You know, it's a kickable penalty now. Very, very frustrating call there for me. You might disagree with me, Ian, but I think Henderson does brilliantly to hold him up there.
Wales schedule after today, they play Italy September the 5th in Cardiff, and then it's the World Cup itself. They begin against Uruguay, then England at Twickenham, followed by Fiji, and then Australia to be refereed by Craig Joubert in their final pool game October the 10th.
Yeah, I think Wales will be focusing on those middle two fixtures, England and Fiji, 5 days apart. That could well determine whether Wales go forward to the quarterfinals or not. Certainly been a step up in physicality from Ireland in this second half, and that's made the breakdown far more of a competition, whereas Wales were dominant in that aspect in that first half. Second half, Ireland have significantly stepped up, which they need to do in preparation for World Cup, considering particularly France, the bottom of that fixture list, then already shown a big physical approach to the way they're going to take this World Cup on.
Tons more urgency out of Ireland in the second half. Still some mistakes and errors, there's no doubt. I'm sure Joe Schmidt would have put a lot of pressure on them at half-time to increase their performance. And credit to both players today. The pace of this game, we've seen a lot of kicking, there's no doubt. We haven't seen it crisp, clean rugby all the time, but the work rate and the effort out of players, and whether it be on the kick chase, in the tackle reload, in making carries, we've seen it all. It's been a great game to watch, great intensity.
Particularly in view that both these teams have made significant changes, so some of these players have not had an awful lot of game time, if at all. So it's a shock. However your preparation's gone in terms of your fitness and so on, your strength and conditioning, it's still a shock to the system when you end up playing a test match, and this has been a test match.
Meanwhile, potentially a devastating news for Keith Earls. Tommy O'Donnell was stretchered off in the corresponding game in Cardiff on the 8th of August with a dislocated hip, and it's another Munster man who has gone down. Keith Earls had so many horrific injuries during his career, and he really stepped up today, Alan, and answered a lot of defensive questions.
Yeah, he didn't have a lot to do in attack. He still looks very, very sharp on his feet, but he's put in some tackles there. You know, he's like a guy who was really out to make a mark defensively. There was power through all those hits. He pulls down North there. Incredible power again from North, but I think it's a head knock. Let's hope it's not going to rule him out. He's been so unfortunate with injuries.
Yeah, fingers crossed for him. Obviously ready to blow Tommy O'Donnell, who equally put a terrific performance against Wales at the Millennium Stadium, and a blow for him that he wasn't available. And Keith Earls has played well in World Cups.
Yeah, 5 tries in the last World Cup from Keith Earls. Again, that versatility, covers fullback, wing and centre. And of course these days, with concussions, head knocks, they do take every single precaution available to them. And as you say, Alan, hopefully it will not be long term. He's got his arm in the air there, signalling to the crowd that he thinks he's okay. Well, let's hope that he really is okay.
Yeah, that's wonderful to see. He puts the hand in the air. He's got a head knock. He's dazed. He probably knocked out for a few minutes. So the concussion protocols will be adhered to, and that is vital. It sends out a really important message to any young players. We had issues with George North at the start of the year. He takes a break out of the game. Sexton, we have to send out a real message to our young players, to coaches throughout World Rugby, the importance of managing the concussion right.
Here, here. And fingers crossed for Keith Earls that he's going to be fine for the World Cup.
Meanwhile, don't want to see that, Ireland. An injury to Johnny Sexton again. One hopes, from an Irish perspective, that isn't too serious and it's a precaution of some sort. Lee Halfpenny, 80% success rate in the Six Nations, and also landed a whole bunch of points for Toulon last season as they cruised to yet another Champions Cup triumph. And our Ireland going to be undone here, and our Wales going to cruise to triumph in Dublin.
Lee Halfpenny is a machine. I don't know describe him. Metronomic. And that comes from hours and hours and hours of practice.
Practice with the boot, but practice in the gym as well for a small guy. I stood beside him a couple of weeks ago. He is chiseled, unbelievably powerful. But you know, you get the view up here. His position and play is sensational as well as a fullback.
And one of the reasons he's so effective, he's got an engine to be able to cover that big space as a 15.
Tadhg Furlong is on for his first cap. The 22-year-old from Wexford, the prop forward, a veteran of 2 World Junior Championships. And it's the Carney boys at it again. They've taken a lot of high balls today, Dave, and this time Rob. And the carry from Dave Kilcoyne. He's a real specialist when it comes to injecting some pace off the mark as a carrier. And when Jones comes through, and it's through the middle, so that's okay. You are allowed to play on in that case. And this is Furlong again. Owen Redden is on, and Sean O'Brien carries. Here is Redden. Luke Fitzgerald. Paddy Jackson is on for Johnny Sexton, wearing 22.
Scott Williams, that rip again. How often we've seen that trademark rip.
Redden to Paddy Jackson. Short ball for Paul O'Connell, the player of the Six Nations Championship in 2015. Redden, Jimmy Heaslett. Redden again. Luke Fitzgerald is the latest Irish back to go down injured. Looks like a hip problem. Paddy Jackson chips through. Lee Halfpenny was nice and patient there. He didn't dive in. He waited for the ball to bounce and collect it. Off goes Dave Carney. He's been mightily impressive in training. We hear from the camps in Cork and Galway and at Carton House. And he's a Joe Schmidt type of player. Really rates him highly. Sean Cronin scored a try against Scotland. Very effective maul from Ireland on that occasion when Cronin catapulted himself off the edge of the maul and over. Ireland could do with something like that now. Geordie Murphy, the crowd beginning to rise here in Dublin. I know that this really good recent Irish record is under threat, and Paddy Jackson was never going to get that drop goal away. That looked like a forward pass there, actually out of contact by Wales. Now Alan Wynne-Jones is the latest player to clutch part of his anatomy. Worrying signs for coaches and players alike. Rhys Priestland, he puts the ball in behind the Ireland cover, and Dave Carney is back there to touch it down. Fill your lungs, boys.
Well, for Ireland to get any bit of go forward ball, they've have to work incredibly hard. I was just about to mention Alan Wynne-Jones. His work rate has been incredible. We spoke about Davies, Tipuric, Faletau, we've seen the drop goal here. It's a bad decision, but it's coming from running out of options. They're running out of options there. Great defence again from Wales, and bad decision from Jackson.
Yeah, it looks as if he's hurt himself there. Wales will be really worried. Don't want to lose Ale Wyn-Jones. He's the epitome of the modern top-class second row. Not only win your line-up ball and pushing the scrum, you've also got to make 12, 13 tackles, carry the ball a couple of times. You saw him making a tackle on Rob Kearney earlier on, pressurising him, and that time charging Madigan down as well.
Doesn't look too happy either, does he, Luke Fitzgerald? You know, like Keith Earls, it's a Rolodex of injuries that he has had. He's just back from shoulder surgery.
He's had an horrendous time with injuries as well, Luke Fitzgerald. Let's hope it's not a serious injury, because I think he's he's played his way back in. He's got his strength back, he's got his power back. He hasn't got many opportunities either, but you know, those opportunities will come for him. He's a really important guy in around this squad.
It looked like he might have maybe just slightly hyperextended the knee in there. Alan Wyn-Jones, good performance. Now look at that, 10 carries, 15 tackles. But that's just another day at the office for this man.
Well, double-digit numbers in carries and tackles in his second row. The likes of Brodie Ruttalick, that's what they do. They expect that. Eben Etzebeth. So that's the modern second row field.
The rain has arrived 8 minutes late. Irish Met Office need to sharpen up. Well taken by Paddy Jackson. Kearney. Ireland have got to find some field position pretty quickly here with 13 minutes to go. 12 minutes to go now. Yet another aerial bomb, and very well taken by Hallam Amos. Scott Williams sizing up that Irish defence, and Faletau is hit by Henshaw. There were no Connacht players in the Ireland squad at the last World Cup. There could possibly be 3 this time if Nathan White and Kieran Marmion are selected alongside Robbie Henshaw. Priestland. Here is Scott Williams, and he's brought down by Paddy Jackson. Priestland again, and Cuthbert runs almost chest to chest into Rob Kearney. It's Gareth Davis on at scrum half for Rhys Webb to his skipper. Faletau did well, got away from that attempted tackle from Paddy Jackson there, didn't he? Paul James. Sean Cronin can't quite get in quickly enough, and it's offside against Ireland, and a penalty right in front of the sticks here for Wales.
You got a sense of those phases from Wales, exactly what Wales' game plan here. They're using the big ball carriers close in around the scrum half, as you see Taulupe Faletau won't thank Scott Williams for that pass. Henshaw read that all the way, but using big ball carriers off the scrum half to create the space out wide, and then they attack the wider channels when they narrow the Irish defence up. It senses a pattern the Wales are trying to play.
They just looked a bit more comfortable on the ball today than Ireland. You look back over the course of the game, and you know, I know they're only winning by 3 and probably 6 now, but the team that's winning is that in a bit more control, that bit more energy, the enthusiasm, and a bit more shape in attack and defence. So there's certainly going to be some concerns for Ireland. I know there's guys come in, they've been, you know, a lot of chopping and changing in the last few weeks, but they've a little bit to work on still. But very impressive for Wales, for a lot of these guys. A very, very strong Wales side.
100% so far, make that 4 from 4, and Wales becoming something of a big game bogey team for Ireland. That victory in the Six Nations, and then back 4 years ago, that victory in the World Cup.
Yeah, but everything we see today has to be seen through the prism of Rugby World Cup. That the goal is elsewhere. But Ireland will be concerned at an inability to build enough pressure when they go through the phases.
Wales have twice been in the semi-finals of the World Cup in Yayan's era in 1987, and 4 years ago Ireland have never been beyond the quarter-finals.
Yep.
Although Wales, to be fair, have been a bit boomer bust in World Cups. Have had their moments against Western Samoa and Fiji when failing to progress. Reece Priest and the rain really hammering down now, but Wales not afraid to use the hands. And here goes George North, and he's got Hallam Amos outside, and it was maybe a chance there for Amos to test his pace on this Irish defence.
Yeah, it's good attack from Wales, but again, Jackson is putting up the kick. There's nothing, the execution is good, but the idea is wrong. He doesn't have anyone chasing the kick. A lot of time on the ball, and they win it cleanly and move it, and Ireland are caught straight away, down numbers. It's very hard to get organised there.
Cuthbert to Priestland. Here we go again. One of those Welsh bombs. And again, it's a corny underneath it, but it's getting very slippery out there now as the rain cascades down.
Red 5,
and Ireland have knocked
red
on.
5.
Rob Kearney, as well as his brother Dave Kearney, have had a field an awful lot of bombs in the air, as you mentioned, and Jenny's been very good. This time, though, you see that arm goes in from Cuthbert, just knocks the ball out of Rob Kearney.
Let's go, thank you.
Hands. But generally, you've seen from Kearney, I think after a disappointing season last year, a lot more hunger and energy in his performance.
And the captain departs now, having played 72 valuable minutes for his country. And there the ref cam view of the scrummage into the final 8 minutes here, and well, it's going to probably need a converted try now for Ireland.
Crouch. Bind. Set. Stand up, please. Stand up, please. Come towards me, please.
Ireland's only defeat.
There's a few new props here, and that stability wasn't as good as what it's been. Get back to what we started with at the beginning of the game.
In their last 14 tests was against Wales, and
if it's not stable, you force me to make a decision.
In Cardiff in the Six Nations. Wales' form has generally been good in recent times, winning 5 of their last 7, including that 12-6 victory in the autumn series against South Africa.
Crouch. Bind. Set.
Just talking about Wales being boomer bust, they've actually failed to qualify from their pool 3 times out of 7, and then they've reached those 2 semi-finals as well. Free kick for the Welsh. Gareth Davis, what a try-scoring record he has. 20 tries in the Pro 12. No Mike Phillips in the squad anymore. Already he has made his exit. James King. Now Davis. Lydiate. Dave Kilcoyne makes his tackle. Priestland for Falatau. Paddy Jackson again as the tackler for Ireland. Sean O'Brien was very effective at the breakdown against Scotland 2 weeks ago. Couldn't turn the ball over there.
Didn't survive the clean-outs.
Davis, here comes the kick once more. A little bit more depth this time from Reece Priestland. But again, it makes it very difficult for Ireland. They've got an awfully long way to go here if they're to rescue this game. Owen Redden, he was in the deck chair against Wales in Cardiff. Owen Redden, the time to rub his toes into the sand and eat an ice cream, but hasn't been that way today for Ireland.
And it's getting very difficult to keep the ball in hand as well. It's very greasy.
Paddy Jackson finds touch well, and here's Scott Quinnell again on the game line.
We'd love to see Hallam Amos open those legs quite like Robbo, but let's have a look. Jamie Heaslip, this is work rate. This is the stalwart. He gets back, really does work hard. He has a huge work rate.
I'm probably a bit more pace than you had, Scotty.
A lot more pace.
I'm in trouble after this match now and he catches me.
You'll have to fight your own battles.
Henderson. You would feel he has secured his place in that 31-man squad. Try-scoring performance from Henderson today. Back at the end of last season after a long-term hip injury. Cronin, remember he did score a try against Scotland 2 weeks ago. But is this going to be Ireland's first defeat in these warm-ups after the victories against Wales and Scotland? And they've turned the ball over to Wales here as we enter the last 5 minutes. And yet again, Justin Tipuric is getting the pats on the blue head guard.
Yeah, there's a lot of head slapping there, backs coming in, and that's a little bit of a lift you want, you know, from your team. That kind of energy passing through the team, and Charteris in there as well. He's vital. You know, good line out initially, won by Henderson, but we don't see that too often, that they're held up and they're driven backwards and the ball is turned over.
Talking about Justin Tipuric there, just 33rd cap for Wales, but because of the presence of Sam Warburton, it's just his 12th start, but he seems to have really taken advantage of the opportunity today.
That's what you want from players. You're given a moment, you grasp it with both hands.
Need to do some damage here, Aaron, at this scrum if they're going to win this game. Wales have it. Gareth Davis, Reece Priestland. Oh, it's so slippery out there now. Can he get out of Dodge City here? The replacement Welsh out half as Ireland come in and over the top and give away the penalty, and that could be the end of Ireland.
That was a bit fortunate, the pressure's coming on, but it shows how difficult it is. Very difficult. I think Reece Priestland takes his eye off the ball momentarily, and that's all it takes. That ball to go through the hands.
And you wouldn't back against Ireland if they got hold of possession down there, of maybe pushing for that score that they mightn't deserve.
Into touch, and a chance for you boys to name your Guinness Series man of the match.
Well, we've had a couple of talks. I think Ian Henderson's been really strong for Ireland, but our Guinness Series man of the match, Justin Tipuric, has been simply outstanding throughout the day in terms of his try, his tackles. 18 tackles, turnovers he's won as well, Quinny.
And it's not just the turnovers he's won; it's just his presence, his work rate. He's been involved in everything. Very deserving of Guinness Series man of the match.
Talking of turnovers, Ireland have turned over the ball at the line out. Off goes Jackson. So maybe they are going to get one more opportunity, Ireland. Wales will be frustrated after winning the penalty there, not to secure their own line out ball. This is Kilcoyne, Owen Redden for Sean O'Brien.
Advantage taken out the halfback.
Halfback taken out, says Craig Joubert. So penalty advantage to Ireland. Owen Redden signals this one's going to go high. Falatau comes in and does well. It was a free hit, and with just under 2 minutes to go, Paddy Jackson pokes it into the corner, and we get one of the biggest roars of the day from the 47,000 people here in the Aviva Stadium, here to see that man's final international on Dublin soil.
In such a majestic presence for Ireland over so many years, and Munster similarly. Outstanding second row and leader Paul O'Connell.
Secured. Well, the Ireland Maul has developed a pretty meaty reputation in recent seasons. Can they enhance that reputation here?
Use it now!
And now they've got to use it. Off goes Sean Cronin, looking to utilise that pace of his. Trying to find softness somewhere in this Welsh defence. Redden, Kilcoyne. Cronin's down injured at the moment. Tipuric comes through. Now tagged Furlong. Paul O'Connell has to get his huge frame down in the ball quickly there, because the ball almost rolled away from Ireland. Kilcoyne. Is this going to be the match-winning series of phases for Ireland? Dave Carney. Are they going to end up losing their first World Cup warm-up game and hand a World Cup warm-up victory to this Welsh outfit. Owen Redden, here's Sean O'Brien, big ball carrier for Ireland. And Wales try to hold him up there in contact. And Ireland quickly had to get to ground there. And again, it's another penalty around the neck. As you were saying, Alan, there is a directive out, and the referees and officials will be very sharp on that aspect of the game in terms of foul play.
Well, it's desperation for Wales hanging on there now. It's Ireland getting the penalties. You know, Wales panicking a little bit there, a little bit similar to the first half, just before half-time.
Redden, here's Henderson, he's already got a try. Wales come in big numbers to hold the Ulsterman. Here's Sean Cronin. Sean Cronin burrows his way over the line, and as he driven his way to an Irish victory.
Have a look.
Well, Ireland scored a try with the final play of the first half. Have they scored a try in the final play of the second half to steal a win?
I've got it in goal, held up. So you're going to have a look and see if you can see the ball grounded. So the question is, try no try.
Okay.
I've got it held up eventually.
Okay. Well,
conclusive proof is needed then. Ask the question, try or no try?
Yeah, it's the question that means you need a smoking gun. And Aaron Jarvis came in with Lee Halfpenny there, and look at the work they have done. It does seem from that angle that the ball has not been grounded.
Yeah, good work by Lee Halfpenny to get underneath that ball. By the look of it, it has not been grounded. There's no evidence it's been grounded from that viewing angle.
No, there's no evidence
from this one.
I think Sean Cronin gets tackled onto his back, and you can see the ball is clearly off the ground, so it is no try.
Huge defensive effort there by Wales.
Craig?
Yes, Graham.
Yes, it's clearly held up.
Held up, no try.
Yeah.
Thank you. Held up.
Well, it almost sums up the game. It's been a thunderous Welsh performance in defence throughout this game. The difference between the sides, the Tipperick try and the immaculate goal kicking again of Lee Halfpenny. For the Irish side, they really found very little room to breathe throughout that 80 minutes, and you'd have to say that's a deserving victory for this Welsh team against Ireland here in Dublin by 16 points to 10.